The day they tried to bulldoze my house, they brought coffee, a fake court order, and a sheriff with mirrored sunglasses like it was a damn parade. That's how confident they were. That's how sure they thought I'd fold. I bought this land 7 years ago because it was quiet, inconvenient, and legally clean. And if you know anything about coastal South Carolina, you know those three things almost never sit at the same table. My parcel rested just outside the gates of Palmetto Estates, close enough to see their palm-lined entrance, far enough to never sign their covenants, their bylaws, or their little suburban constitution of who gets to paint what shade of beige. I checked the title 6 times before closing. 6. Old habits don't die after 18 years as a federal prosecutor, they just turn into insomnia and a love of fine print. I read every easement, every survey line, every dusty county filing that might whisper obligation. There wasn't one. My land touched their fence. It did not belong to them. Apparently that offended them more than if I'd painted the house neon pink. I built modern flat-roof concrete solar panels angled toward the marsh instead of traditional symmetry. No colonial brick, no faux shutters, pretending it's 1793. It annoyed them before the foundation even cured. The first time I met Cheryl Baxter, she didn't say hello. She stepped onto my gravel driveway while my contractor was unloading lumber and said, smiling like she was blessing a child, "You know, that design is going to affect surrounding property values. Not welcome. Not nice to meet you." Straight to property values. I told her calmly, and I am very good at calmly, that my property wasn't part of Palmetto Estates, that everything was permitted, approved, signed off by the county. She nodded the way adults nod at toddlers explaining dinosaurs. "Everyone around here is part of something," she said. "You'll see." And I did. Over the next year, she showed up twice uninvited, once with a clipboard, once with a man she introduced as our security liaison. She photographed my driveway. She asked my electrician if I had approval for the solar installation. When he told her the HOA had no jurisdiction, she smiled and said, "We'll see what the county thinks." 2 days later, a county inspector came. Polite, thorough. Found nothing. That became the rhythm noise complaints when I wasn't home, anonymous reports of unpermitted work letters from a legal committee referencing bylaws I had never agreed to. I didn't respond. Silence is a language power understands, and I wanted them to keep talking. 2 years in Cheryl came with an offer generous on paper, dishonest in spirit. A developer wanted to expand. My land was strategic. I declined. 6 months later, she came back with a higher number and less charm. 3rd time, she leaned across my kitchen table and said, "This development is happening, with you or without you." I asked if that was a threat. "It's just how things work in this county," she replied. After that, the patrol cars started. Late-night knocks, suspicious activity, report of shouting. Once an officer asked if I was storing weapons. 14 visits in 2 years. Always different deputies. Always the same disappointed look when they found nothing to write up. Rumors followed I'd been forced out of government. I was under investigation. Smear campaigns are cheaper than lawsuits. Cheryl knew that. So I documented everything. Dates, badge numbers, voicemails, camera footage. Every time a cruiser idled too long in my driveway. Because people like Cheryl don't stop when you resist. They stop when they make a mistake so large it swallows them whole. And confident people make big mistakes. Thursday, 10 a.m. I heard tires on gravel, 3 vehicles. A black SUV with the Palmetto Estates logo, a county cruiser, and a contractor's truck with neon-vested men inside. I stepped onto my porch with coffee I suddenly didn't feel like drinking. Cheryl came first, blazer pearls folder in hand. Behind her stood her brother, Sergeant Roy Baxter, mirrored sunglasses that smirk of a man who thinks he's already won. "Mr. Green," she said sweetly, "we have an official notice. Inside the folder, emergency demolition order, unsafe structure, county seal, Judge Harold Mitchell's signature." I scanned it once, then again. I never received a hearing notice, I said. No inspector entered this property. Inspection was conducted last week, Cheryl replied, handing me a report. Inspector Jeremy Talcott. I almost laughed. Talcott retired 3 years ago and moved to Arizona. Roy stepped forward. You can leave peacefully or I'll arrest you for obstruction. I folded the papers, slid them into my jacket. I'll stay. Steel cuffs clicked around my wrists. Behind them, the contractor crew began unloading tools not to level the house outright that would draw too much heat, but to damage the edges. Mailbox. Fence. Solar panels. Enough to intimidate. Roy read me my rights like he was ordering lunch. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every word was being recorded. Not just to the cloud, to encrypted backups, to an SSD, and to a flash drive locked inside a safety deposit box 3 towns away. I had been waiting for them to slip. They didn't slip. They dove. At the station, they processed me slowly. No phone call. 6 hours. In South Carolina, holding a non-violent detainee without access to counsel beyond a reasonable period, roughly 2 hours edges into civil rights territory. 6 hours? That's malicious. Through the door, I heard Roy say, "Fence down, mailbox gone. Hit those panels if you can." That part stung. Not the money, the principle. When they finally gave me my call, I dialed Denise Carter. I trained her years ago when she interned with the Justice Department. Now she wore a federal badge and knew exactly how to use it. They forged a court order, I said, and executed it. Silence. You let them? She asked. Yes. Because if I'd stopped them early, they would have regrouped, cleaned metadata, filed proper motions, played smarter. Now they'd committed federal crimes. 2 hours later, actually 1 hour and 16 minutes, my cell door opened. You've been cleared for release. Outside stood a U.S. Marshal. 10 minutes later, we pulled up to my house. Black federal SUVs lined the road. Yellow tape, not county federal. The mailbox lay bent in the grass. Fence torn. One solar panel, shattered wires exposed like nerves. Denise met me on the porch. Judge Mitchell had signed an affidavit swearing he never issued that order. The docket number belonged to an unrelated case from 2 years prior. The inspector's license number assigned to a pest control company in Savannah, and Cheryl's computer metadata showed the demolition order was created at 11:42 p.m. the night before my arrest on her machine. Inside a folder labeled Expansion Sat Plans from Carver Ridge Properties, a $3 million payout contingent on acquiring my parcel. Handwritten note, Marshall Green is the last obstacle. Roy says he'll handle it. There it was. The twist wasn't that they were corrupt, it was that they were sloppy. Roy was arrested that evening, escorted out in cuffs. Cheryl followed. In her home office, federal agents found blank court letterhead, a rubber stamp of Judge Mitchell's seal ordered online, and receipts for cash payments to contractors. One of the workers flipped immediately text messages from Cheryl. Make it look like prep work. Panels can go. That'll shake him. Roy pled guilty to 3 counts: deprivation of rights under color of law, falsifying documents, conspiracy. 8 years federal prison, pension frozen. Cheryl went to trial, 5 days. Jury deliberated 4 hours, 6 years. Asset freeze. During sentencing, the judge told her she'd abused local governance to intimidate and illegally seize land for profit. Gavel down. Empire over. But here's the part no one talks about. The HOA board unraveled. Residents came forward, families who'd been pressured to sell fined for imaginary violations, harassed into submission. Some got settlements. One got their property back. The HOA dissolved. Direct county oversight replaced it. And me, 6 weeks later, I received restitution, enough to repair everything twice over. But that wasn't the real reward. A year later, my house stands quiet again. Solar panels replaced, fence reinforced, mailbox solid steel now. And in the corner of my yard where they tore the gate down, I built a small rock garden, pale stones, a single Japanese maple, and a granite slab etched with simple words, "Here lies the end of the Baxter Empire." 2024. Cars slow down sometimes. Denise visited one afternoon, bourbon in hand. "Why let them arrest you?" she asked. "Because if I stopped them early, I said they would have tried again. People like that don't quit when they're scared. They quit when they're caught." She nodded. "Most people don't win against systems like that. They get tired, they sell, they move. I didn't win. I just let them lose. And that's the part that stays with me. Power isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It leans over your kitchen table and tells you that's just how things work. It counts on your fatigue, your doubt, your desire for peace. Sometimes justice isn't about swinging back. It's about stepping aside and letting someone run full speed into their own trap." So here's the question I'll leave you with. If you knew someone was corrupt, but the only way to expose them meant letting them hurt you first, would you take that risk? Where's the line between strategy and self-sacrifice? Tell me what you think. Have you ever stood your ground against something bigger than you? A system? A board? A badge? Was it worth it? I'm curious where you draw the line between patience and revenge.